Business is more than grinding to get it done. It's people, process, and payroll done right. It's protecting your team, leveraging every penny out of every dollar to build and grow. From HR to insurance, from strategy to scale. We give you the playbook so you don't have to figure it out the hard way. This is the PEO Playbook, hosted by Chad Philly with Staff Brokers Inc. Get valuable insights and learn to grow your team without HR headaches. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the PEO Playbook podcast. I'm Chad Philly here with Marty Gray. We are with Staff Brokers. We are an independent wholesale PEO broker representing multiple PEO vendors throughout the United States, here to help clients and insurance agents find the best PEO fit for their particular client. Today, the nature of what we do in helping businesses find a good PEO partner, wanted to have a little discussion on what makes a good PEO partner. So, Marty, let's kick it off with shoot in general. What do you think's the vital things or vital point about making a good PEO partner or being a good PEO partner?
It's one of the things that we've really been blessed with is having good PEO partners. And that process has always started with us vetting the PEO, going to meet the owners, shaking their hands, getting to know what their core client is looking for. Are they blue collar? Are they white collar? Are they a risk on or a risk off company? And we want a little bit of all of that in our book of PEOs that we partner with so that we can bring in to the different types of clients that we have. You know, looking into the background of the ownership group, diving deep into who their work comp carrier is. Are they A-rated? Are they not rated? Are they a large deductible program? Are they a first dollar cost program? These are things that kind of tells the story of who a PEO is. And then we go even deeper into what is the level of service, because not all PEOs are equal. Quite honestly, there are PEOs out there that are simply payroll and work comp, and that's what you get. And they're very cost conscious PEOs. We tend to lean towards those that are going to be providing a lot more service and also being cost conscious. Once we've got to know who that PEO partner is and feel comfortable that they're have a good history of customer care, work comp, ownership team, we then dive in deep with the personal, getting to know the lead at the payroll processor group. For an example, different companies have different processes in the way that they will process. I particularly like when you call in, you have the same processor every week. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not part of a group, because obviously there's situations where a payroll processor might be gone or sick for a week, in which case then if they're part of a group process or a pod, there's somebody there who steps in. Typically it's a supervisor, but it doesn't necessarily even have to be. It just has to be somebody who's also familiar with the processes of that particular company, the nuances of what day they turn in their hours, how they're turning in their hours, what day the payment is due, and obviously what day the check's got to be mailed out by or the ACH is cut by. In this world that we live in, you would like to think it's the same every single week. We've had a history, especially with our northern clients. You know, there's a snowstorm, a hurricane, something that is on the outset that's going to cause an interruption into turning those hours in on Tuesday and getting paid on Friday. Could also be the owner just out and out forgetting to turn in his hours because he's on vacation that week. These are all special situations where when the PEO knows that owner's on vacation, they'll reach out to him directly on a cell phone when his time to have turned in hours isn't there. They go hunting for him because they understand the need for that data to be in so that we can hit our ultimate timeline, which is making sure the employees get paid on Friday. Can't miss that one. But what happens when the snowstorm or the hurricane comes, and you have a mandated situation where payroll is not going to get out? In those situations, we've got solutions that might be, for an example, a net check process where the PEO actually cuts the payroll. We're just not able to overnight it. And the client then turns around and cuts checks for his employees to the amount that we've determined what they should be. Those are rare situations, but it's also something that we're ready for. And that's what makes a good PEO partner, is any and every situation that occurs, they've got the experience and they've got a solution ready for when that happens.
Being that we're in Florida, and you've mentioned hurricanes, how are PEOs dealing with hurricanes, especially Florida-based PEOs, and keeping information and data safe, as far as backup systems and that kind of stuff, so that if they have to shut down, work remotely, that clients throughout the country are still able to get paid?
The data side of it, I think, is really simple and smart on their ends. They all have backups that are remote locations. So
Okay.
if Clearwater got crushed, the data is not all kept in Clearwater. It's kept at a like a Microsoft or data location. But more importantly, with the hurricanes and big storms, we see them coming. And when we see them coming, we see a problem in front of us. So, if we know a hurricane's coming on Tuesday, Friday, we're getting in front of that client and saying, please turn in your hours. We're processing through the weekend. We're going to try to get these out on Monday for a Friday payroll. It's the process, right? So, weather-related events, we can really, they just take advantage of seeing it come beforehand.
Also, some of what makes a good PEO is, what they offer. Are they just payroll and work comp you had mentioned? Some have some other benefits. Can you touch on that a little bit as far as what makes a good fit for a PEO?
Well, again, that's going to be what our client is looking for. But yes, most of the relationships that we have a healthcare, a retirement, a supplemental, vision, and dental. So it's an all-encompassing program that the client can quite honestly pick and choose what it is, that benefit that they want to be able to bring to their employees. And some of them, like the supplemental, there are no costs to the employer. So if the employee wants it, you now have it.
Gotcha. You also made mention of, when you're determining PEO partners, the types of work comp program they have, whether it's first dollar, you said first dollar, high deductible, who their carriers are. How does that impact who the PEO is and how they might be able to help?
Well, it affects pricing, right? So that's the part that determines what PEO is a good fit for our client. Think of it this way: with a very large deductible program where the PEO is taking part of the risk, and quite honestly, in some cases, they may pass on a $1,000 or a $5,000 deductible to the client so that the client's taking on some of the risk. That's an advantage to your blue collar clients. Your $20 work comp code. If you're able to take on part of the risk as the PEO, then you're getting those rates at a much lower price. And that's part of their business model of managing claims. Let's face it, there's not an entrepreneur out there who is an expert in managing claims. PEO owners are managing claims for their profit margin. So it's their vested interest. Once a claim comes in, communicate properly and directly to that employee to let them know that where they should be going, what happened. And we want that in writing. We want to know, because quite honestly, in mitigation of claims, it's all about the legal process. When you have an unhappy person, most of the time that occurs is because you've neglected them. They got hurt. You said, "Well, go home. Let come back when you're better." That person gets a lawyer. When the PEO process is properly running, the person gets hurt. They're communicated by an HR professional as to, we know that you've gotten hurt. We want to guide you to the right place to go get fixed. We want to know exactly what happened from their perspective. We also want to know what happened from anybody else who saw the event occur. And this is not in any way to prevent care to the employee. It's a matter, actually, the opposite. I don't have a single PEO partner who doesn't realize there's going to be claims. They all know there's going to be claims. It occurs. It's about taking care of the employee throughout the process. And neglect, quite honestly, is the number one reason that I see people who come to PEOs, because they don't know how to take care of. There's that time lapse between the employer, the accident, the employer doing something, and then the insurance company stepping in. And by having a good HR department carrying that process through, you can have the most unfortunate accidents occur, and people will be like, "Wow, I just knew that they had my back the whole way." Right? I knew that I wasn't alone in getting hurt on the job. And the claims may be still very, very high because of medical costs, but at least they're not there because of legal costs. And that's where I've seen PEOs just be able to manage claims so much better than the individual entrepreneur.
As far as location, like clients in Florida, is there any matter or difference whether their PEO is located in the same state? Can a PEO, do all PEOs operate everywhere? Or is, California versus Florida? Should it, be California PEO, California client? Can you touch base on that a little bit as far as
Chad,
what makes the good fit as far as that goes?
Right. That goes back to our vetting process and us knowing what it is our client's looking for. If we have a guy who's, tells us he works in Florida, but at best he's going to go to Florida and Georgia, that'll give us a handful of PEOs we can utilize. If we have a client whose business is in more of a nature of, well, I just don't know where I'm going to pop up if I'm successful, I might be all over the country with employees. Well, that's a different PEO that we want to bring. And we do have PEOs that have coverage all over the country. And probably the biggest advantage to that is, again, going back to that relationship, because it's crazy how different the laws are from state to state as it pertains to workers' comp and the management of claims and what can you do and what can't you do. So it's real important to have a partner who has that knowledge of what state they're working out of. And, probably not to get political, but the biggest advantage, difference would between your, let's say California, which is a very liberal state, versus, let's say, Florida, which is more conservative. Your liberal state's going to be way on the side of the employee, and you're going to see way more claims go to the legal side versus in a red state where things are just more cut and dry. Like, this is the way you're supposed to be handling it. So the PEO handles it a proper way, so the legal process doesn't get involved so quickly.
All right. Well, I think that is going to be about it today for the differences in PEOs and some of what makes a good PEO partner and what doesn't. Thanks for the input there. Obviously, it's not what makes a good PEO partner really depends on the particular client, from what it seems like from that, because there's so many different things that go into it. But thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at peoplaybook.com. Again, I'm Chad Philly. This is Marty Gray, and appreciate you watching.
Thanks for tuning in to the PEO Playbook, where we help business owners unlock the power of PEOs and take their team to the next level. This episode was proudly brought to you by Legacy Sales Engineering. If you're ready to simplify HR, scale your business, and put the right team behind you, visit staffbroker.net to get started with Staff Brokers today.